Some video games are easy and some video games are hard. We all know this. Games are going to have different levels of difficulty. This is one of the most fundamental laws of the universe. But how hard or how easy should a game be to boost the amounts of fun to be had by the player? This question is extremely subjective and is highly dependent on a player's view of fun in a video game. But when I pop in a game, I expect that game to challenge me. I want a game that pushes me to my limit. When a game's difficulty is so mind-numbingly easy, it robs the player of the enjoyment to be had out of the gameplay. The game should actively prod at the player's imagination, encouraging them to experiment with the game's mechanics to find out how to progress. And harder games help achieve this. But this is also a place where the line between good difficulty and bad difficulty becomes blurry. You don't want the game to be too easy, but you also don't want the game to be too hard. When a game's difficulty makes the player want to kill themselves, this might be where it's taking it a little bit too far. If the game denounces and rejects the player's efforts, then what's the point in playing? If the game's not fun, then why play the game? Now there's another difficulty that comes into play known as artificial difficulty. Now, all gamer boys and gamer girls alike hate artificial difficulty. A lot of people do debate on what's real difficulty and what's artificial, but most people can agree that things like inflated HP, inflated attack damage, bullet sponges, rubber banding, broken enemy spawns are forms of artificial difficulty. Games like Destiny clearly have forms of artificial difficulty strewn out in the game. Harder boss fights mainly entail you fighting bosses just with more HP. Look at this boss fight, for example. Does this gameplay look engaging at all? They're just mindlessly spamming at an enemy whose health bar is gigantic. This is not only lazy game design, but it also makes the game stale after multiple hours of playing and grinding. Many games really struggle to find that perfect amount, that difficulty that among completion makes the player go, hey, that was fun, I want to play more of that. And very few games actually fall into that great, fun difficulty zone. And Celeste is one of those games. Now if you don't know what Celeste is, first off, shame on you, go play this game right now. And secondly, Celeste is a 2018 2D platformer developed by a man named Matt Thorson. And this game gets difficulty right. It strikes the perfect balance between hard, challenging gameplay and satisfaction among completion. Basically, you play as this girl named Madeline, and your whole goal is to climb up the mountain known as Celeste Mountain, hence the name. This journey starts off with just 3 simple moves: jumping, dashing, and climbing. And everything you do from the very beginning of the game to the very end will revolve around these 3 mechanics. Now the levels start out pretty simple, but as you progress through the chapters and you start to feel like you're getting the hang of the game, Celeste starts to hit you with mechanic after mechanic after mechanic, but no gameplay choice feels overused. Celeste moves the player along at such a brisk pace that the game doesn't stall out or get repetitive like others. The increasing difficulty of the levels is overshadowed by the fun just experimenting with the fresh new mechanics. Celeste follows in suit of some all-time greats in that it has gameplay and movement that's easy to learn but hard to master. Knowing this, the developer added some extra content and levels to be played after the game is completed. Now these extra levels are called B-sides, and you unlock these B-sides by completing a harder platforming challenge hidden inside the previously established levels. But let's just say the B-sides are basically the original levels if they had snorted 50 grams of coke. Just saying they were hard would be an understatement. This right here it comes. That was the main story gameplay. Alright, and now here's the B-sides. And once you complete all the B-sides, you unlock even harder levels known as C-sides. And they're hard. Really hard. But one beautiful thing about these extra chapters is the game design. Most level screens in the B and C sides are extended. By making the screen longer, it gives much more individual freedom to the player on how they want to clear the level. This gives the game an extra layer of interactivity by not only playing as a platformer, but also like a puzzle/maze. This, along with just harder obstacles in general, make these extra chapters almost incomparable in difficulty to their corresponding levels. But the thing is, you're prepared for it. Celeste has such a beautiful difficulty curve where you just keep learning and growing as a player throughout all the levels. Eventually you get to the point where you look back at the old levels that gave you a challenge and just say, pathetic. Also in these extra levels, new mechanics are still being introduced. These hidden mechanics, like the wall boost jump thingy, or the jump boost, add so much more options of traversal to the game, allowing the player to pull off some ludicrous stuff on subsequent playthroughs. See, you could do this level like a little loser, like this, or you could do it like this with the rest of us big boys. But do you want to know the most beautiful thing about Celeste's difficulty? The thing that kept me going even though I have the patience equivalent to a toddler's. In Celeste, death is not only expected, but it's encouraged. I found myself bragging to my friends about how many deaths I had in Celeste. This is because in Celeste, death is not equal to failure. Death means growth. Every time you die, you learn something new. Whether it be about the level, the mechanics, the timing, every single death moves you forward in the game. Death in Celeste does not mean failure. Failure is when you refuse to keep going, to keep pushing yourself, to keep persevering through the levels. That is when you fail. And that's why when you back out, hit return the map, it asks you one question, and that question is give up, because giving up is failure in this game. This is when you realize Celeste's difficulty is no longer found in just beating the game, but mastering it. You are not running from the challenge, but rather approaching it. You are no longer focused on mere completion, but on things like, hey, how fast can I beat this level? Can I get through this level without any deaths? And actually, if you do complete a stage without dying, you get a golden strawberry, which is pretty cool. I mean, I got some of them, so, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm I've spent a lot of time in Celeste. I mean, a lot of time. But I enjoyed almost every second of it. From just starting off in the city to finally climbing the final summit on the last seaside level. The pure excitement and satisfaction I received from every step of this game is something I think every gamer boy and gamer girl should experience. And this can all be chalked up to Celeste's incredible, testing, challenging, stimulating, inspiring difficulty. Thank you, Matt Thorson, for blessing the world with this game, and thank you for watching the video.